councillors and members of the public, our ever-present media and staff, good morning, welcome. I'd like to ask Councillor Belford to please take us through the prayer, which is right there. Thank you. Right. Apologies. I have one apology. Councillor Barker has had to dash down to Wellington this morning. Someone happy to move that we accept that apology. He may be back later in the day, depending on how long our meeting goes. Councillor Bevan, Councillor Graham, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Any notices today? Councillor Belford.
I'm not sure this is a notice, but I have a question as to the order of the agenda. When might I ask that question?
Well, now.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I just have a concern about when we have the discussion of what is public excluded in the meeting. There are a number of items proposed to be discussed in public excluded that I would, when the time comes, object to that. And it seems to me the discussion that we would have about that matter would be the same whether we have it at 3:15 or whether we have it at 9:15, because it occurs in public when it comes up. But at 9:15, the media is here, members of the public are here, and if these matters were to be discussed in public, then they would have the opportunity to take part in that. What normally happens, as we all know, is as the day goes on, attendance dwindles. No one knows whether these items are going to be discussed in public or not. Probably the perception is that they will not be, and so folks tend to drift off. So many of these items are rather important, and if they were to wind up being discussed in public, it would be good for people to know that that is in fact going to happen. So I guess just as a matter of general procedure, I would suggest that our agendas be kind of reconfigured so that before we get into the substance of the meeting, we note what those items are and have whatever discussion should occur around them and make the decision at that point, even if we, obviously then delay the discussion till the end of the day.
Can I just, thank you, can I, though, remind everyone that we are recording this at great cost to the ratepayer, and the whole community has access to the public discussions at a later date, at any date, really. So I don't really see the issue with it. To answer your question on whether we go in or not, I mean, that's up to individuals to make their own decision and vote accordingly at the time. So whether we need to have it earlier or later, I don't really see any advantage or disadvantage in doing it early and then waiting till the end of the day. So I think short answer, it'll be at the end of the day. Any other notices?
Chair, if I could just raise one other matter, and it's in relation to the agenda as well. I asked Liz to put on the agenda the matter of conflict of interest, which you're also aware that I'm concerned about. Is it intended that that be discussed as part of matters arising from the public excluded minutes?
Well, it can be. I mean, that can be brought up then, but I think the general discussion that you wish to do is actually a more formal and open discussion around HBRC.
Yeah, I'd certainly not want it to be in publicly excluded,
exactly.
But it's not on the agenda, so I'm not quite sure what I need to do to get something on the agenda, given that I specifically asked for this to be on the agenda and it's not. So I'd like to know how it's going to be covered. Is it going to be covered? Can I raise it as a minor item not on the agenda?
No, but it can be covered. It needs working up, basically. I mean, to throw in a late request by email, it's always hard to...
With respect, Chair, it wasn't a late request.
Okay.
We've been told we've got to get things in 7 days in advance, and it was definitely done 7 days in advance.
So the Chief Executive.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I did receive the request in time. Thank you. The agenda does go out 7 days in advance, so or 6 days in advance. So it does require anything of significance to be notified quite prior to that. I guess the protocol is that the agenda is the responsibility of the management. In this particular case, I discussed this item with the chairman, or the potential for this item with the chairman, and we concluded, and I think that I replied to you along this vein, that the specific matters that you wish to raise could be addressed through discussion in item 16.
But a more general discussion needs to be held. I agree with that.
Okay, that's fine. Look, as long as there's an opportunity to raise it, that's fine. I'm happy to raise it under 16.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other notices? Thank you. Okay. Conflict of interest declarations. Right. There being none, the minutes of the meeting of the 29th of January, reasonably concise set of minutes. For accuracy, for normal process, I will go through for accuracy page 2, page 3, 4, 5, 6, and a couple of words on page 7. Someone happy to move that they are a true and correct record? Councillor Scott, seconded. Councillor Pipe. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Any matters arising from that set of minutes? Councillor Belford.
On page 2, and the first item, the last paragraph regarding discussions with Nikki ongoing, future meeting will be scheduled. Where does that stand?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we have requested a meeting with the parties, and with Nikki in particular. They've advised that they're still working on a date and time, and have undertaken to get back to us. So at this stage, no firm date, but we're waiting to hear back from them.
Okay. I have a second one. On page 5, at the very top, there's a reference to the reorganization submission coming back for discussion. Are we discussing that as part of the Regional Planning Committee agenda item? Is that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's on the recommendations come back from the Environment and Services Committee, so you can discuss that in agenda item 10.
10.
If you look on the front cover, Councillor Belford, of your agenda.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's attached to that one?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have one matter arising which involves page 2, item 4, in regard to meetings being held and discussions and investigations continuing to resolve accommodation issues in Wairoa for staff. I'm proposing that when we visit the northern part of the region next week, we drop in and have a quick viewing of the premises, so everyone's aware of what we're talking about, what the issues are. Okay. Any other matters arising? Very good. Thank you. Follow-ups from previous council meetings, page 3. Mr. Adie's not here. Okay.
I'll deal with this then, Mr. Chairman. I mean, this. I think the status comments in the first 3, numbers 2 and 3, suggest that those matters have been dealt with. And in relation to the COMA report, it's stated in there that it's expected towards the end of March or early April, and that's still the status of that. It's still expected at about that time. For the follow-up for the meeting held the 18th of December, again, that's another action that's been completed. The consultants have been appointed for the independent review, and assessment of the business case as well as for the work on the alternative investments. And finally, for the council meeting held in November around a regional and Lower North Island spatial planning framework, as Ms Codlin has advised, that work is programmed to occur in the next financial year beginning 1 July, and that will be programmed as part of our annual plan.
Okay, any questions? Body of work. Happy to move, Councillor Scott. Seconder in the form of Councillor Bevan. Thank you. I wondered how many more words I had to add to that sentence to get someone to look up. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Minor items not on the agenda. Councillor Belford.
To Deloitte and MPI. Deloitte and MPI.
MPI, two separate?
Two separate.
Okay, cool. Councillor Scott. Pardon me?
The Maori Charter.
Excuse me, Councillor, it's just a suggestion when you're talking, just try and extend the microphone as close as you can to yourselves. That might help. Thank you.
Mr. Mohi.
Was there that appropriate time to talk about the Wairau agenda visit? Or is that separate?
No, you can talk about it.
Well, I don't want to talk about it, I want to ask about it.
Do that now, actually. Let's deal with that now. So what do you want to ask?
Just what is the agenda?
I did, walked into that. Mr. Adie's not here. Sally's not here, coming out shortly. Yeah. Still formulating it.
Just I did, for members, I did send a suggestion last night that we meet with the Tai Whenua or Wairau in the first instance, as we did with the field trip to South Island with Ngaitau, to be welcomed into their area, but just to say to them, look, we're not here to come and tell you what to do. What do you suggest we should do?
No, I'll pass that on. Yeah, but the final agenda hasn't. Well, I haven't seen the final iteration.
I think there's been an exchange of emails or several ideas around that meeting with the Tai Whenua and other Māori, and so that's being worked up by Mike and his team, and they'll get the final details to all the participants as soon as possible.
So, Chair, if I could just comment, I think Mike said last night, I thought it was a very good one. I think that we should have a formal welcome into the region. It's part of the problem in the past. Some of the big players, they haven't really been formally welcomed. Just depends which side of the pie you sit, really, and pie you sit. But then I thought that if we had the council after that, and we spend the whole morning really, or even early the afternoon, finding out what the people of Wairau think.
Absolutely, and my intuition tells me we'll let them decide how they do that and how long it takes, and we go to a marae. We are going to a marae at Mahi, though. I'll make that point later in the day to look at the Whangawaihi scheme, but that's different. That's not the Tai Whenua.
So will the crayfish be there waiting?
They're still in the sea at the moment, but they've been put on notice. They've been put on notice, Mr. Mohi. Right, we deviated away there. Any other minor items to discuss? Thank you. Right.